back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson spoke with, I believe, MMA Junkie, and he said that he doesn't know what the current UFC champion Tyron Woodley is playing at, but he needs to just fight, man. And he said a whole lot in the article, but that's two of the things that are, that really stuck out. The fact that he said to Tyron Woodley, just fight, man. I don't really know what's going on, but just fight, man. That's all I say, just fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, probably the most innocent adult you've ever met in your life, besides Sage Northcutt, at least on... that's what's portrayed. I mean, who was it? I forget who it is. Some people say Wonder Boy is really not the same off camera as he is on camera, but the Wonder Boy that we know is one of the most innocent adults you'll ever meet in your life. So whenever he speaks, it's just like he doesn't. I don't want to say he's a victim, but he just seems, he's just so innocent, and anybody that innocent is kind of a victim a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know what's going on with the welterweight division, man. The champion Tyron Woodley, he just doesn't want to fight, and he's got contenders lined up, and I just don't know what's going on. I just think maybe he wants a money fight, and I'm just a good guy, and I don't really know anything except for I'm ready to fight with my thumb heels up. You know what I'm saying? Just so innocent, nothing to criticize. So it is what it is with Wonder Boy. But as far as what I've got to say is, I'm not going to get disrespectful on this video, but I just don't like where Wonder Boy is coming from with this on Tyron Woodley. I mean, it's not really hard to understand where Tyron Woodley's coming from. It's not like he's fucking speaking Ebonics. He says it pretty clear every time he's got a camera on him, he's got a lot of platforms where he lets us know. I mean, it's pretty, and especially if you're a welterweight, top-ranked welterweight, you would think you would know what's going on with your champion more than just us fucking random fans, right? We know Tyron Woodley has got shoulder surgery and he's healing up, and he's waiting for possibly after shoulder surgery a fight with Rafael dos Anjos. That's what it's looking like. Now, some people are saying Tyron Woodley, this is the rap he gets. Oh no, he just wants a money fight. And that's not even fucking true. I'm about to turn into a Tyron Woodley defender just because whenever I see some of the hate that's just not true, I'm like, come on, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. With that being said, though, Tyron Woodley has a shoulder surgery right now, and he's also said that he's looking for a legacy fight, not a money fight. So when people say Tyron Woodley just wants a money fight, he's want to be that's not what's going on. And I can point to the fact where Tyron Woodley fought Kelvin Gastelum when he was still at middleweight. At welterweight. Kelvin Gastelum came in 10 pounds overweight, which is almost unheard of. Tyron Woodley still beat him and gave him his money back. It's not about money with Tyron Woodley. The people who think that probably should get that out of their heads, because that's not the case. He's not looking for a money fight. He wants a legacy fight, or a fight that's going to make him a household name, like a Nate Diaz fight. Whenever Tyron Woodley says he wants to fight Nate Diaz, it's not because Nate Diaz is going to sell 10 million pay-per-views. It's because everybody knows Nate Diaz. So if you beat somebody everyone knows, you become a household name. That's good for your legacy. So with all of that aside, Stephen Thompson, this is what he had to say. He's been in the fight game a long time, so we'll see where it goes. I really don't know. Just fight. That's all I say. Just fight, man. I don't know if he's trying to get some time for his shoulder to heal up and saying, oh, I'm not fighting these guys. They don't deserve it. Like, hold the phone, bro. Walk with me. This video is probably going to go for a while because there's so much shit going on in this welterweight division. Even with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, for him to be telling Tyron Woodley to just fight, and maybe it's because you don't know what's going on with his shoulder and his shoulder surgery. Well, there's a lot of people that have been wanting the Darren Till Wonderboy fight, and so anybody in the welterweight division could be saying to Wonderboy, oh, just fight. He's talking about, in this article, he talks about his thumb injuries. He's like, we're trying to go away from surgery. Sometimes when I throw a punch, my thumb hurts for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I was like, well, so what do you want us to say to you? Just fight, man. Tyron Woodley actually got the shoulder surgery, and it's looking like Wonderboy might need the surgery if his thumb, is still having these complications that are going to prevent him from a fight. Now, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, as far as aside from the thumb surgery, the fight that he's looking forward to is a fight with Rafael dos Anjos. That's really the only fight Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is open to at this point. We've had Darren Till, who's called out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he said he's trying to fight up. Well, after Robbie Lawler lost, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson became the #1 contender. So now there's nowhere for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to fight up to, because he's already fought Tyron Woodley twice, and we know how both of those fights went. In the first fight, Tyron Woodley almost finished Stephen Wonderboy twice, and it was still a draw. Second fight, Tyron Woodley still won the fight. And, you know, the first one was a draw, but it was more decisive than the second fight, which wasn't, you know, a draw. So, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, regardless, there's not really going to be anybody clamoring for a Tyron Woodley, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson rematch. So, we'll probably, not even a rematch, a third fight, and we saw how the first two played out. Tyron Woodley gets a little bit of a bad rap, even more so than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, for those fights, for it being a boring fight. Even though there was, you know, it wasn't a boring fight. Whenever I think a boring fight, I think Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. I mean, I get it. Yes, he was way bigger. Stipe had to do what he had to do. Nothing against Stipe. I'm a huge Stipe fan. I think Stipe is the heavyweight GOAT and all of that. He did what he needed to do. But when a referee doesn't stand up a fight, or, you know, when there's, you know, and not a lot of ground and pound, not a lot of submission attempts, that's kind of can be boring. Whenever we were watching Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, you were on edge, because at any moment, one of these guys could have got knocked out. Tyron Woodley, power puncher. If he would have landed an overhand right, like we saw, like you see in the right thumbnail, at any moment, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson could have been out of there. And maybe if Tyron Woodley wouldn't have went for the guillotine, maybe if he would have continued with ground and pound, he would have finished Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But that fight still ended up being a draw. So then we go to the next fight. So that fight was never boring for me, because also not only can Tyron Woodley land a huge bomb, if he comes in the wrong way, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's a fucking karate master, can knock out guys. We've saw him do it many times, even though some of those guys, you know, we'll get into that later. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson can knock anybody out if they make a mistake and come in the wrong way, or he can just outstrike you like he did Jorge Masvidal, who was a former lightweight, but he still outstruck Jorge Masvidal, who's a very talented striker. So you've got to be really talented to be able to get through Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's defense and land anything, let alone win the fight. Tyron Woodley did that, if not twice, he at least did it one time. So with that being said, I was entertained by Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, if you go back and watch it now, knowing that no one gets finished, yeah, you might complain about it. But it's interesting how many people complain about Tyron Woodley's fights and then call him a complainer. That's pretty interesting, right? Tyron Woodley's labeled as a complainer because he says, hey guys, I want a legacy fight. I don't want to fight this guy, this #1 contender, and then another #1 contender, then another #1 contender, because none of these #1 contenders are legacy fights. I want a legacy fight. And they're like, hey, shut up, stop complaining. It's like, aren't you complaining about him complaining? We'll just, you know, we'll talk about that later. No, we won't, not on this video. But I'm just saying, it's interesting how fucking people complain about someone being a complainer. And so, also, all of that aside, Tyron Woodley is a guy that's been fighting the #1 contenders. He fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson again. He fought Damian Maia. He didn't want to fight any of those fights, as far as he would have rather had a legacy fight. He would have rather fought George St. Pierre. He would have rather fought Conor McGregor. He would have rather fought Nate Diaz. He would have rather fought any big, not even money fight. He would have fought any legacy fight, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson wasn't that yet. But what did Tyron Woodley do? Even though he's let us know, or as some people say, even though he complained about not wanting to do it, he still fought Wonderboy Thompson twice. And then whenever he thought, okay, I fought the #1 contender twice. Now, can I get a money fight? Nope, GSP wants to fight Bisping. So now he's got to fight Damian Maia. Now he's got a shoulder surgery. And people are still saying, yeah, I don't know what he's playing at. Is he playing at, you know, not wanting to fight a #1 contender? He just fought 3 #1 contenders. He's not playing at anything. He's got a fucking shoulder surgery, bro. But with that being said, I really wanted to pull up these guys' records. I've did this one time in my YouTube career, which is like, what, 7 months now? But just for anybody that might have missed that, I got to go to UFC.com really fast. Because, you know, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I'm a fan of him. I like his fighting style. It can be boring at times, but I also like his personality. You know what I say? He's like the most innocent adult you've ever met. And that's just, you know, cool. You can't root against a guy that's that fucking innocent. So, you know, cool ass guy. If I had my nephew was into mixed martial arts, I would want him to, look up to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's got the self-defense style. He's not gonna bully anybody, but if you come in on him, you know what I'm saying? I love Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but as far as his UFC career has went, I don't want to say he's handpicked his fights. He's got a team to do that for him. No, I'm just playing. But I'm just saying he hasn't had to fight the toughest competition in the world. Now, he's got some big names on his resume, but I'm just saying if you wanted to nitpick, it's not as impressive as some of these other guys. And a lot of people don't have the opportunity Stephen Wonderboy Thompson had. Like, let's say Darren Till was chomping at the bit and the UFC wanted someone to fight him. A lot of people are just taking that fight because, as Jeremy Stevens said, I didn't know we could turn down fights. But I just want to compare Tyron Woodley's resume and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's resume really quick now. Just because it's not about who you fight all the time. Sometimes it's about when you fight somebody. Now, what I mean when I say that is Tyron Woodley in the UFC. When he fought Damian Maia, of course, he was the champion, but Damian Maia was on a 7-fight winning streak. It's not like Tyron Woodley got to fight a guy that just, knocked out 2 people and skipped to the title shot, like maybe a Volkan Ozdemir who fought Daniel Cormier, or a Cody Garbrandt who fought Dominic Cruz, even though he won that fight. But Damian Maia earned a legitimate title shot by going on a win streak. He was the #1 contender, no questions about it. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, both of those fights, #1 contender fight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, arguably, he won this fight and still fighting him again. So these are fights that a lot of people, especially superstars of the sport, which Tyron Woodley doesn't get credit for being, would not be taking. And even if they wouldn't be taking them, the UFC might say, hey, no, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Now, the Robbie Lawler fight. Robbie Lawler was the champion at the point, and people talk about how boring Tyron Woodley's last 3 fights were, and then you point out, well, yeah, but the draw was fight of the night at UFC 205. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, I mean, his last 2 fights were boring. And I'm like, oh, but was the Robbie Lawler fight boring? And, they just keep moving the goalposts with Tyron Woodley. It's like, oh, yeah, but he's a complainer. It's like, oh, yeah, but you're complaining about him complaining. Oh, yeah, but now he's got a shoulder surgery. Oh, yeah, but he threw little punches versus Damian Maia. It's like, oh, yeah, but his shoulder was fucked. People are always find something to complain about with Tyron Woodley, no matter what. They used to call him Tyron, but nobody calls Runderboy for not taking the fight with Darren Till. They're like, no, bro, his thumbs are hurt. And, and I get it. Injuries prevent it. But whenever Tyron Woodley has a shoulder surgery, he's playing at something. So it's just, Tyron Woodley, and it is what it is. Now, before his Robbie Lawler fight, he fought Kelvin Gastelum. That's the fight. Kelvin Gastelum was 10 pounds overweight. Tyron Woodley still won the fight and gave him his money back. That's why you can't say fucking Tyron Woodley wants money fights. That wasn't the money fight. He didn't want money there. None of, so when he did lose to Rory McDonald, but all right, now I just want to go to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's real quick. What I'm trying to say with showing these resumes is Tyron Woodley's fighting guys that are in their prime whenever he fights them. He's fighting guys that are fucking #1 contenders. Now let's go to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just real quick. Just as I'm just gonna show you guys one thing that I've seen just doing research on the sport. So expand full history here. Jorge Masvidal, great win by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson for sure. But to be fair, he's a lot longer and he's got a great style. It's a great style matchup for him versus the former lightweight Jorge Masvidal. So you take that fight, but you can say that's a smart fight for Wonderboy to take. The 2 Woodley fights, we know how those played out. Rory McDonald, that was after his Robbie Lawler wars, and say what you want about that. That was right before he went to Bellator. So yes, it looks great. Oh look, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson beat Rory McDonald. But to be fair, it was arguably when Rory was a shell of himself. And I'm just saying, you can literally point to something like that for each of his fights right here. Johnny Hendricks, after USADA, post weight cutting issues, that was not the best Johnny Hendricks in the world. Jake Ellenberger, Patrick Cote, Robert Whittaker. This was when Robert Whittaker was still at welterweight, but so yeah, so it's impressive that he beat Rory McDonald and Johnny Hendricks. But at the same time, I mean, I just think Tyron Woodley gets a whole lot of slack compared to some of these other guys. And, and what I'm saying is people nitpick with Tyron Woodley. You can nitpick with some of these other guys, as I'm saying, So with that being said, I've said enough on this video. Wonderboy Thompson is telling Woodley just fight, but that's not going to be happening as long as he's got a shoulder surgery. And another thing is, just really quick, you see all of these champion versus champion super fights coming up. All of them. DJ TJ, Cyborg Nunes, fucking Stipe DC, Tyron Woodley's been wanting to do that probably before all of these people, and we can't get a champion to say, yeah, I'll take the Tyron Woodley fight. Michael Bisping had that opportunity. Nah, I'm going to fight GSP, and it's not even the champion, but still, you know, it's kind of like the same thing. But if you were going into a fight and you had to choose, like, who am I going to take less damage from, Tyron Woodley or GSP? I think the safer pick would be GSP, especially for Michael Bisping. Like, yeah, he might take me down and beat me up. He might even knock me out. But Tyron Woodley's probably definitely going to knock me out. And even Dana White himself said about GSP, you know, GSP didn't want to fight Tyron Woodley. He didn't want to fight this guy. He wanted the Bisping fight, and then he left. So with that being said, it is what it is. I think people need to start putting more respect on Tyron Woodley's names, and it's probably never going to happen because people are going to always move the goalpost. And it kind of reminds me of the Kamaru Usman situation. Yeah, he said the 30% comment, but it doesn't change the fact that there were slams in the fight. It was a dominant performance. He called out Colby Covington. There's a lot of good things you can take from a fighter's performance, but some people choose to take the bad, you know, and that happens with a lot of these fighters. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.